Okay.
Well, hello. Welcome back. This is episode 12 of the Rooted and Free Sisterhood podcast. I'm Joy McLaughlin,
And I'm Jenny Hershey.
sisters in real life and dear
Yeah.
friends. We are
Yeah.
blessed. So we've been having fun, right, Jenny? We've
Yeah.
been having lots of fun.
Absolutely.
I hope you know by now we don't take ourselves that seriously. There was a day when
How
I took
could we?
myself very seriously.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Life
Yeah.
is too short.
It really is.
So we like to laugh. We like to laugh at ourselves. So feel free to laugh at us too. We really don't care. Just laugh all you want.
Fine with me.
Our husbands laugh at us. We laugh at each other. We laugh at ourselves. It's all good.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. All right. So today we want to talk about marriage. And you should know, Jenny and I really don't discuss what we're going to say. Maybe it shows. They're like, yeah, we know.
Oh, that's why.
We
Okay.
just, I mean, we will have a topic, but we really don't
Uh,
like go into depth about like what we're going to talk about. So this is
No.
all just on the fly because it's just more authentic that way.
I
So,
know. Well, I honestly didn't know what we were. I couldn't remember. We've had so much going on. I thought, what were we talking about? Oh, well, I'll figure it out.
I know
So,
we'll just figure it out right here with you guys.
so there is no fake shell going on here because I don't have the time for it.
No, right.
Yeah.
But when I thought about this topic earlier today, you know what came to mind? Marriage. From for the
Princess
Princess
Bride.
Bride. And for
Yes.
some reason I can hear Mark saying it in my head.
Well, we still often say, "Do you have the wing?" I don't know why, but there are times where it comes into conversations that it's
Right?
very handy. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the rest of that line? Marriage. Marriage
Yeah.
is what brings us together
Today.
today.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
gonna
it was fun. I do remember that now because he looked so regal in his robes and everything. And when he went to speak, and then he goes, "Marriage." I don't like,
I'm gonna
oh,
see. I don't know if I can do it, but I'm gonna see if I can find that clip and stick it in here somewhere.
oh, that'd be great.
Just for
That would be
fun.
great.
Anyways, all right. So Todd and I have been married 39 years.
Hmm.
You and Mark have been married 37
A
years. No,
37.
38.
38. Yeah.
You're 38 because we're going to be 40 in August,
That's why.
which
Okay.
seems absolutely crazy to me.
This is just insane.
We were just talking about the fact that, we're like in the 60-year range.
And
And I just turned 59. You're going to turn 62 in
uh-huh.
August, the day after our
Yeah.
anniversary.
Yes.
That is crazy. That many years. That many years.
I honestly, like I said, I sometimes still feel 16 inside,
I know. I do a
and then
lot
I
of the
look at the
time.
gray hairs and go, "Oh no," and the
Right.
wrinkles.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, no.
Yeah. So, marriage. Okay. So, like, growing up, and we've talked a little bit about this. Mom and dad didn't have the best marriage. They just didn't. We
Yeah.
didn't, that just wasn't really what we saw at home. But yet, I've lived in my happy bubble my whole life. And so I imagined when I got married, the white picket fence and everything perfect and beautiful. And, that illusion did not last long
Well,
because I'm human,
yeah.
because, oh, oh, sorry. The latch on my screen door broke, so it just flies in the breeze now. Got to get that taken care of.
Nice.
Anyway, so I
Okay.
thought somebody was coming in my door, but nobody's there. It's just the wind.
That would be awkward. Hello,
Um,
you want to join?
yeah, so I don't know. What do you want to talk about marriage? Todd and I had a great first year, and then we
Yes.
went through a really rough spell
Yeah.
because we were young, not really grounded.
Right.
A lot of a lot of my thoughts were not based on the Bible necessarily or
Right.
in reality. so so my delusional little self just, you know, struggled in those early years.
Yeah.
What about
You
you
know,
guys?
I I think, well, first of all, we loved the Lord and we loved each other.
Mhm.
So what could the problem be?
Right. No
And
problem.
I realized it took me many years into the marriage.
Yeah.
I started seeing, okay, like you said, we talked about our parents' marriage. We saw a lot of conflict.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of raised voices, and there was a lot of ways I knew that wasn't the way I wanted to handle conflict.
Yeah.
But I hadn't given it much thought. So I just didn't bring anything up. And I think what happened as I look
Yeah.
back, I think a lot of times whatever Mark said, I just went along with everything, absolutely everything, because I
Yeah.
wasn't going to be conflict.
To keep the
And then, but
peace.
things were building up inside of me.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I would blow sky high. And the shock on his face was like, what is going, because I never questioned anything.
Yeah.
And then I didn't know how to handle conflict.
We
And I was like,
didn't. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it took a while before I realized, even in a marriage that is people that love each other
Yeah.
and they are following God, there will be conflict, and how are you going to handle it? Now,
Yeah.
I will say, people always said when you get married, don't let the sun go down on your anger. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
you solve it before you go to sleep at
Right.
night. Well, in today's world or in any world, sometimes you're busy until
Yeah.
you're finally getting to bed.
Yeah.
It's 11 p.m. at night. I'm going to say, at least from my perspective, that's often not a good time to bring up a stressful conflict at
Right.
11 o'clock at night because it rarely gets resolved. And sometimes you wake up in the morning and go, what was that about? It wasn't that big a deal. But
Right.
when you're
Yeah. Yeah.
exhausted,
Yeah.
but I was just going on that little phrase, don't go to bed angry,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I have a fly biting me, so I keep.
You talked about like yelling. So that was how mom and dad, sorry, when they had arguments, there was a lot
Yeah,
of yelling.
yep,
And so I didn't really think about it too much, but I think that was what I adopted. And I
yeah,
remember the first time we got in a serious argument, and I remember yelling, and I remember Todd looking at me like, what are you doing? Because his parents didn't yell, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And it took me a while to realize, first of all, I don't even like yelling. Like it does
yeah,
not bring me joy. It doesn't, I don't enjoy it at all. But I do remember, that's how I would, probably try to dominate was by raising my voice. And
yeah.
he would just look at me like, I don't even get you. Like what are you doing? So our first year was really fun. It was really good.
Yeah,
And then we were about a year and a half into our marriage, and we had Todd Jr. So he
mhm,
was about 3 months old, and then Todd's family went through just a really difficult time losing a
yeah,
family business, which was also, what we thought our future was. And
yeah,
for us, that revealed just a lot of gaps in our lives personally, in our relationship with the Lord, our relationship with each other. We weren't really grounded. And so we got tossed around by the storms of life and,
yeah.
just ended up going through several years of just a lot of
Turmoil.
conflict and turmoil. Yeah, just because it was every area of our life, I mean, everything felt
Yeah,
uprooted all of a sudden. So,
yeah,
anyways, yeah. And, when you get married or before you get married, people always say, communicate. What's the most important thing inside of a marriage, and what it inevitably it comes up communication. But like I don't ever remember hearing anything other than communication. Well, you know what? I was communicating when I was yelling. It just wasn't great
Don't you
communication.
understand? Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and so just that whole communication thing,
Yes.
there's
I think, Mark and I were doing, I mean, it wasn't perfect. We were doing okay. And then when we lost our first daughter, if
yeah.
anything, that was hard because anybody that knows Mark and I may have realized that we don't exactly have the same personality.
Wait.
And I
I'm
know
sure
a
God
nurse and an
chuckled a little
engineer.
when he matched you two up. We're going to put Jeni with Mark.
Okay, I have to say, one of the first times we were planning a cross-country trip, and back then
Yes.
you just had the Atlas. Now, when we took family trips across, like up to Washington or back, and basically dad kind of got thought, okay, this highway, this highway, this highway, we'll drive until,
Yeah.
we're almost out of gas and we'll stop there and get food, blah, blah, blah. First time we were planning a cross country trip, Mark had the Atlas out and I was just watching him. And all of a sudden
Mhm.
he's
Yeah.
he's measuring miles and stuff and calculating how much mileage the car will make and blah 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 so he could plan where we're going to stop. And I literally remember going, "Do you have to do that?" Because I was totally
That was
lost.
not the
I
way our
thought you just
family
had to
did it.
drive it.
But can we
I
just
didn't, when the jokes about engineers, I really didn't understand he has an engineer
That's
personality.
what I was going to say. We need to make sure people know that Mark is an engineer and he's a
Totally,
really
an
good
electrical
engineer.
engineer, and that is totally him. That fits him because that's who he is, and that's why, in a way, I've always said we're a good match either because I'm a nurse and I
Yeah.
kind of have the kind of nursing that I did a lot was more like ICU and crisis type. So you had to look at a crisis. You did not
Yeah.
have time to sit back and think about all the possibilities. You had to gather facts quickly, make an idea and go with it. And
Yeah.
which is not what electrical engineers do a lot. And so
Right.
when God put us together, I think
Thankfully, they
he
don't do
matched
that.
up where I'm weak, he's strong, and where he's weak, I'm
Yeah.
strong. So we either complement each other really well or we kill each other. There's
Right.
no in
You're
between.
still alive, so that's good.
Yeah,
I
we
have to
did
say,
meet. Yeah.
remember so a lot of the family was living out in Arizona when you guys got married. Okay.
Hmm.
I also want to preface this was before the internet. This was in the 80s. There was no internet. So you didn't Google anything.
No.
But I remember that Mark um, came got this whole plan with maps and directions and just to get from the airport in Indy up to Fort Wayne and
Yeah.
possible routes. And I mean, he was so thorough and like what a blessing it was. And I know that mom and dad, they were so tickled pink by that because, they were the wing it kind,
Were they really?
You
Oh,
just take
yeah.
take your little finger and point to the atlas. We're going there.
Isn't that the truth?
No,
So,
they were so tickled by that. They loved that. And like the thought and intention behind what Mark did, to relieve the stress for people that were coming, because it was just a different
right.
age. Um, but
Absolutely.
anyways, and on top of everything that he had going on to do that was very kind. And
Oh,
it was also very foreign for, a lot of us.
I know.
Wait, you
Well,
plan
and
things? Wow.
there was a different culture between, say, the Midwest, and we were
Hmm.
from California, Arizona,
Right.
hey, so it was different.
Yeah.
Um, and but our personalities were different. And then when we lost our first daughter, well, it makes sense that we grieve differently too.
You grieve
And you
differently.
talk about communication. We kind of had to, it might not have been as bad for him, but I felt like I had
Yeah.
my find my way back to him because there were times I was just falling to pieces, and he was a man. He went out, "Okay, we're gonna go to work, and maybe I'll go and chop down wood or do extra
Yeah.
target practice to relieve stress," and I'm like, "Why aren't you crying all the time and everything?" And yet
Yeah.
he was grieving just as much. So
Right.
that was a really tough time, and we were not old. We were in our
Yeah.
early 20s, so we were
Yeah.
still figuring it out. He lived through already, his dad dying.
Losing his
That was
dad.
in no way planned or anything, so he knew a little bit about the process.
Yeah.
We had all 4 of my grandparents were at my daughter's funeral. So
Yeah.
that was a new thing for me.
Yeah.
I like so many other things in life, you think you have compassion and you understand, but then when you walk it, you're like, "I will handle it differently with
Yeah.
someone else from here on out."
Well, and you can see it in, I know you've mentioned in the past too, like, you can understand how a tragedy like that, sometimes couples do end in divorce because
Yes,
the grief process is so different. And I mean, a lot of other factors can play into that as well, but like it can cause a great divide, you know?
absolutely. We
Yeah.
are surrounded out here by whether it's blood family, whether it's our church family, whether
Yeah.
it's friends Mark has grown up with. We had people we could go to, and I think that's was one of the things I learned. I somehow had this idea, nobody taught me, but that in marriage, my husband has to be my best friend, and that means he's my all in all, and I
Mm-hmm.
share everything with him,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't have a close friend, or I somehow absorbed that, and nobody
Mm-hmm.
taught it to me. I think I
Right.
just sensed that's what a Christian marriage would be. And
Yeah.
I finally realized, especially in the grief thing, that I had a couple. It was you and there were 2 other Christian women
Yeah.
that there were times I went and unloaded on them. They
Yeah.
let me say whatever I wanted. They
Yeah.
didn't doubt
Yeah.
my Christianity, but that also saved it. So Mark just was not getting pounded with it while he could
Mm-hmm.
barely keep his head above water.
Yeah.
And having, it's not the whole world, but having good friends
Yeah.
can really help you stay afloat in your
Oh, for
marriage
sure.
if
That's a
they
really
are
good point.
godly
Yeah.
people that are walking beside you,
Yeah.
even if they're just simply a sounding board,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
That's
and
really
somebody
good.
that's just gonna keep nudging you back to your spouse and back to God. But
That's
they're
just
not gonna go
it.
and blab it, and they're not afraid you're just gonna run and get a divorce, but they just listen, and
See,
they repeat
right.
back.
And I
And
had those kind of people in my life too, and that's something that I've prayed over our daughter-in-laws and our sons
yes,
as well, that they would have those friends that are going to point them in the right direction, in a godly
right.
direction, and point them back to their spouse and not be ones to create division, because
Yeah,
I mean, everybody goes through hard times. Marriages,
right.
they ebb and flow. You brought up a point that is a really good point too, and I think Todd and I, we were well
Oh,
into
wait,
our
can I
marriage.
write this down? I had a good point.
It was, and I don't know where I got this illusion either because it wasn't played out at our home growing up, but I didn't understand. I thought that Todd and I had to like everything, the same things, and
Mhm.
like, it took me a long time to figure out like I can bless him. You go, whatever it is, hunting or you go bike riding or whatever, and like I don't have to love that,
Right.
and I can
Right.
have my own things, and then we have our things that we do together, and there's
Right.
a lot that we have in common, but like it took me a long time. I think and I don't even know where I got it from, but I didn't want him to do that stuff because I thought I had to do it too,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so weird.
Well, and
Yeah.
I had somebody like, once I was okay, a lot of the time I didn't work. Sometimes I worked a little bit part-time after we had kids, but I was
Yeah.
homeschooling, and so I was, really based at home,
Mm-hmm.
and there were times, and Mark hardly did it, but there were times he went out hunting with someone,
Yeah.
or they went and golfing or something like that. It
Yeah.
wasn't that much, but I've gotta admit, there were times where I was a little bit resentful. And there
Uh-huh.
was a friend of mine from church, we were just talking about stuff, and she was talking about her husband. She goes, I encourage him to go out with the guys. She goes, "He works hard. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't require me to work.
Yeah.
He supports us." And she said, "I find he's better when he goes out occasionally
Yeah.
with a good group of guys, it
Yeah.
enables him to carry the heavy load that he's carrying." And that I can still think of that conversation, think of
Oh,
her
that's
telling me
cool.
that, and I was like, that changed my entire way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I stopped resenting because before it was like, and then I was like, I would be like, well, he's out having fun. It's like, well, what are you gonna do? Well, I don't want to. I like being home, but why does he?
Right.
And then it just changed it because I thought he is carrying a lot
Yeah.
of the financial load
Right.
and the details and
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
and every once in a while to go out and he's not going out getting drunk or anything like
Right.
that for crying out
Yeah.
loud, you know, and
Right.
it really enabled me to help him do his
hmm
thing without, in a way, having to lift a finger,
And the
but
thing is, like, nothing about the situation changed except your perspective, you know?
oh,
And
thank
the
God I
same
heard
for me.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, because I remember when I could finally just tell Todd, like, I bless you to go do those things. You
yeah,
know, I don't have to go, like, go and, like, you know, because there are things I like to do. Like, I like to go shopping sometimes. He is not a shopper, you know,
yeah,
like, he blesses me
mhm,
to go do whatever I'm doing and, you
yep,
know, vice versa.
yep,
So, yeah, that was a good one. Okay, so we've discussed that and we're gonna actually maybe next time we'll talk about how we get through hard times because we've had hard times. But I
yes,
don't want to talk about that, but I want to talk about when you get through those hard times as a couple, like on the other side of that, what that's like. You know what I mean?
yes, yep,
Because Todd and I have talked about that, and I mean, there was a time, and I've shared this before. I went to a parking lot with two little boys, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm done with marriage. We were, several years into all this conflict and transition. And, God clearly told me, he said, go home. And within a week's time, then, he showed the plan for restoration in our marriage. But, after all that, and God brought us back together, I remember sitting next to Todd, and it was back here in Indiana. We'd moved into the house that you guys had moved out of
yeah,
on Fulton Street. And I remember
yeah,
sitting there, and it's like, I like to be with him again, and it
yes,
had been years, and we had fought. First, we fought each other, and then we
yeah,
fought together for our marriage, and that was such a sweet realization for us. And, we've had ebb and flow since then. We've had a lot of hard times, and as
yeah,
most people have, but I just remember, I even just saying, like, I feel really bad for the people that, we don't know people's circumstances. This is not judgment. I'm
right,
just saying, I
yeah,
feel bad for people that bailed in the middle of the hard times and didn't get past it and, enjoy that sweet time afterward. And that's not everybody's story. I'm not saying that at all,
right, right.
but for us, it like was so much sweeter afterward. What do you think?
I
What about you?
I totally agree because there are times where I look back and, the circumstances were really hard and you're
hmm
being squeezed individually and as a couple and
hmm
everything else. And but the fact that because of God, you stayed together, and like you
Yeah.
said, it puts you on a different plane and you
hmm
understand a little bit more what your marriage is worth and what it is. And then when you
Yeah.
go through the hard times again, not that they're any more fun, they're not easier, but the more and the more you do, it's like you don't even think about it. It's like, okay, let's gird up our loins. We're doing this again.
Yeah.
But there have been times, we had some hard times early on. Later on, there was something that really stretched us, but
Yeah.
not working through it. And it easily could have
hmm
been something where it separated us. But
Yeah.
it never even, we
hmm
just did it together. We figured it out,
Yeah.
and by then we've kind of figured out this is
Yep.
your strength, this is my strength. Okay, I'll handle this area, you handle this area.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, communicate. I mean, I will say cell
Right.
phones are not nice for your marriage, because sometimes even in a marriage, you're running and going and you're hardly in contact with each other, but you can
Right.
at least send a text just so you know I contacted this person.
Right.
You know, it reminds you to talk about it that night when you get home or
Right. Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact that when you sit back and think, all I can say is thank God. And like you
Yeah.
said, this is not an indictment. This is not a
No, no, no,
judgment.
no.
There are millions of
Right.
stories out there,
We
but
can
I
only
am
talk about
so
our
grateful.
stories, you know?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I'm so grateful I married somebody. You know, when we were engaged, we were like, we are not going to talk about divorce.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and everything.
Oh,
And
we said
yet
the same thing. Yeah.
I had no idea how hard it could be.
Yeah.
I had no idea,
Yeah.
because we were Christians. So
Right. Right.
that should be
Right.
it, you know?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
but I am grateful to God that in spite of me, he stuck with me with Mark. Because
Yeah.
I always joke, but I'm like, Mark, you're getting a martyr's crown in heaven for being married to me. And I don't want to make light of martyrs, but
Right.
I realize what sometimes what it's cost him
Oh, I
to
know,
stick with
right?
me.
Yes.
And that is not, I'm not being facetious. I'm not saying that, ha ha ha. I truly sometimes as I look back over it and all of a sudden I look
Yeah.
at who I've been through the years and stuff, it's like,
Yeah. Oh, same.
wow. So
Same. And I want to say too, like, so we had our rough patch and then we had this peace, and like once you've experienced that kind of peace in your marriage, not perfection, but peace, like you really fight to hold on to that. So, when conflicts or situations come up again, like, is it really worth it to give up peace? No, it's
absolutely.
not. It's not. I've also learned to just talk a lot less, like,
Oh,
like
great.
to like
Oh,
think first and process, instead of just like, word vomit, because a lot of times, in that
that
processing, the Holy Spirit will just check my spirit and go, hey, you're out of line here, and it saves another, conflict or discussion or whatever, by just internalizing and, just working through it first, because, yeah, anyway.
well, and I was just thinking when you said when you've got that peace, it helps you to prioritize marriage and family.
Mm-hmm.
Not to the extent of the rest of the world, I don't care what happens
Right.
because I have to protect myself, because that's not right either. And
Right.
there have been times I've wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But also you look at whether it's the family schedule or what
Yeah.
you're at constantly being asked to do stuff and help with stuff. And absolutely God asks us to give ourselves for others and to serve others. But at the
Yeah.
same time, we do have to look at our family and go, how will this impact the
Right.
entire family? And,
Right.
so I think as a believer, it's hard because we're taught to sacrifice. Like I said, we're
Mm-hmm.
taught to give of
Yeah.
ourselves,
Yeah.
but sometimes we lose sight of other priorities. And there are
Right.
times where, because of what the family's going through, you just kind of need to circle the wagons,
Mm-hmm.
make sure that the family
Yep.
basic needs,
Yeah.
physical and spiritual, are being met before you
Mm-hmm.
can share others.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. We've used that same phrase. It's time to circle the wagons for a little
Yep.
bit. Just
Yep.
draw them close and,
Right.
yeah.
Just for a period of time.
Right. Yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, even Jesus himself would, go out somewhere and pray with the Father.
Yeah.
And then he came right back and served.
Yep.
He
Right.
didn't just say, oh, this is too much. I'm just going to
Yeah.
hang out here. How wonderful would that have been if he just hung out somewhere with God the Father?
Right.
But he
Yeah.
knew that's not what he was called to do.
Right.
But
Exactly. That's
so,
good. We don't want to make this too long. Anything
yep.
else? Well, okay. So, we're decades into this whole marriage thing.
Oh, my word.
Decades. Between us, we almost have 80 years of marriage. That's crazy.
Oh,
Crazy,
for
I tell
crying
you.
out loud.
I know. All right, we're gonna end. Tell me something that you love about Mark. I threw that in there.
You sure did. There's so many things, some I
Yeah,
won't
I
share.
know. I know.
I would
I
just
did just throw it
say
in there.
he the way he takes care of me. And a lot of
Uh-huh.
times his taking care of me is in actions. He
Mm-hmm.
does occasionally get me flowers, but it's not a lot. But when I look at the ways, it's little things like tonight. He's going to be gone, won't get home till late, so I have to feed the cows. But I
Mm-hmm.
looked out there, the cow grain is already in the buckets, the hay's been sectioned
Yeah,
off for me, so all I have to do is grab it and go do it. I could dig in there and get everything out,
right.
but when he asks me to do stuff, he makes sure he has it pretty much ready to make it easy for me. And
Yeah.
that's just one of the ways of where, he
Yeah.
makes sure the cars are taken care of or whatever. That's just what he does. Because that's
Well,
how he was
yeah.
raised, what a man does. And so, but even when I'm being a stinker, he doesn't
What?
withhold. Well, that happened
Wait
in
a
about
minute.
1991. It was one
What?
time. But anyways, he just and what he does with that is not based on who I am or how I'm acting happen to
Yeah.
acting to him at the moment.
Yeah.
So
And I would say about Mark is he is a man of honor. Like he
yeah.
honors, he has honored, he married into our family, and he honored our grandparents and he honored our parents and he
He
honors, his mom. Like
I
he honors.
he jumped
Yeah.
in, he doesn't take charge, but when he's needed to
Hmm.
support was needed to support our parents or move our grandparents, he was just like,
Yeah.
you tell me what to do.
Or even when we moved mom and dad from Ohio back to Arizona, Todd and I don't even know how we were planning on doing this. We were going to do it by ourselves, or Todd was going to drive the truck, I was going to drive their vehicle. And last
Yeah.
minute, Mark and Tom are like, you guys are not doing that. And they got
Yeah.
tickets and drove the
Yep.
truck. So, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I love that he thought of that and he's like, "Is it okay?" I'm like, "Of course it's okay."
Yeah.
But just that he thought he goes, "I'm not letting no, no,
Yeah.
she's not driving."
Yeah.
And so he like you said, he joined the family.
He did.
He didn't take over, but he is more than willing to
Yeah.
carry his part of the weight of
And you know
taking
what?
care of
It's a good thing they did that because then Todd drove mom and dad's vehicle and I pretty much slept for 24 hours on the ride out there. So that would not have gone well with me driving. I'm just
a lot of
so
screaming.
exhausted. But
So,
anyways, and
yeah.
so Todd, yes, Todd,
Yes,
he loves so well. And he
he does.
has a tender heart. Todd's a big guy and like he's a truck driver and he throws chains and all that stuff, but then like he just has a heart of gold and he loves
He really
deeply.
does.
Yeah, he does. And he same with you, like he honors me too through, just all of the things that he does for me. And you know, we've had times where, I mean, just even last weekend, what were we trying to do? I was trying to finish up a project and we had to do 45-degree angles and I was hot. I was tired. I was hungry and I'm like, I'm done.
Not a good combo.
And and like he's like, no, he goes, we can do this. Let me help you, and just
Yeah.
I've seen him working on vehicles and he's exhausted after the week and he comes home, so for him, he shows his love as well through things that
Yeah.
he does for me. And like, and I tell him all the time, like, I would have given that up a long time ago. I would have given up. But like, trying to get like a rusted car part off or something.
Yep.
I mean, he might beat on it for 2 hours and heat it and, research and
Yep.
everything. And I'm like, I would have called that mechanic so fast to come get this vehicle.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyways, but yes, we're both blessed, the men that God has given to us, and
Yeah.
I cannot imagine doing life without Todd, and I can't imagine,
No.
you doing life
And I
without
want to
Mark.
say too, I know she's not a part necessarily of it, but our sister-in-law, Kathy,
I
our brother,
know.
there's only three of us, but
Yeah,
the way, gosh, I'm going to cry. The way God brought, we have a family and
yeah,
we've all been married longer than we were just
yeah,
the five of us. And
yeah,
God truly made all of us a family. Not that everything's perfect and we agree on
right.
everything, but we truly do work together.
Yeah,
And even in the hard times, especially with like our parents and stuff,
we've
and there
had,
was
yeah,
distance and everything else, the six of us, in one way or the other, all of us did our part to
yeah,
take care of our parents, and
yes,
I didn't hear any, well, that's not my mom, that's not my dad, you take
right,
care of it or something.
right,
And
yeah,
that really is, yeah,
yes,
that's part of that can be part of the benefits of marriage. And it doesn't always
right,
work that way,
right,
but I'm
yeah.
grateful. I'm
And I don't know if
grateful.
you know this, but John can also be a stinker.
We should have a whole series on John.
We
Let's just
should.
have one program on the golden one.
Right. Now, John is incredible. He's a
We still
wonderful
adore
man.
him.
We
Let's face
do.
it, we still
Yes.
adore him.
But
Yeah.
Kathy's put up with him all these years as well.
Mhm.
Anyway, all
So,
right.
okay,
Got
good.
anything else?
Um, not for today. Nope.
All right. Well, sounds good. We're gonna sign off and we'll see you next week.
Everybody have fun. Take care.
Yes.
See ya.